let's make this an office, and I am a BIM manager. And just like that, we can create our first project.
Well, that was simple.
Yeah. And, some of the things that we discussed earlier were, having that framework. So here we have items such as your project information that we can add. Here we have our section for team. And very easily I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to need Clive, and I'm going to give him some work later.
Oh man, I'm going to be an editor.
Well, I invite Clive to this as my team member, and here you can add more teams. And look,
cool.
Clive already has his own account, and the system recognized him. And
all my contact details. So if you were to click on that card, you'd see my contact details as well.
All right. So here, now it's about getting started. So we can either create our first plan sections, or we can add. So I'm just.
And this is from templates, yeah?
Yeah, add from our templates. We can add from the example template that everyone has access to, or even some other templates from the global tab. Here, I'm going to open up the examples and select all of these items. I can browse through them, select or not select. Let's say, for instance, in this case, we don't need any phase planning or cost estimation on this project. We can be more selective when we choose.
So this could be templates from the template library, or you could build your own templates and they would be available as well.
Right. So if I already had my own sections, I can hit create and start copying and pasting from any other documents that I already have.
Very cool.
So as you can see here, I've brought in all of these items, drag and drop features. Just to reorder them, we can simply select.
So when you drag and drop, you don't have to go and renumber anything. It's going to renumber and it's going to change the order for you as you move those around.
Right.
Cool.
So since these are templates, we can.
Well, those guys keep bugging you with help, don't they?
Yeah. So since they are templates, we can now just edit and modify what we need for this specific project. And there's the approval feature that we talked about earlier, approving these one by one.
And I see that there's a little message bubble.
Right.
What's that?
So not only can we see the activities.
Like I know nothing about this.
Not only can we see the activities, but we can also comment. So reducing the amount of emails between team members and keeping all of those discussions in one place per section has been really useful.
This is a really beneficial feature for users where instead of having to push one PDF around for a workflow of approvals, and what usually comes back is a set of comments and a rewrite and trying to manage that workflow, all of the feedback is targeted for each section, and you can then go and edit. And just to clarify, editors can propose, and then managers on a project can approve. Yeah, so you're a manager because you've created this project, but me as an editor, I could go in and I could start commenting or writing, and then okay, great.
All right, so we've created our plan. Now let's jump into the scope. All right, so here, this is our scope module. So very similar as to how you can get started. You can either add from your templates or start creating your scope packages from scratch. So here it has a similar feel. You can select from past projects. Right now, we're going to select from our example project, the foundation scope. And what this would bring in.
So you can have architectural, mechanical, and
so
these are predefined packages of scope?
Right.
Okay.
So what this has brought in, milestones that were already predefined in that example project. It brought in the scope systems at the LODs that we have already defined.
Along with all of the elements that have been selected or not selected in those, yeah.
Also looking at who's responsible. So here it automatically created those teams such as the architectural team, the structural team. All of that information that you've already done in your template has been transferred over to this one to quickly create this next project.
Very cool.
Now we can start saying, okay, well, maybe at the retaining walls need to be in LOD 200 in the design development phase as well, maybe the structural slabs as well. So we can now start modifying this for this specific project.
Very cool. And then I see a couple of locks at the bottom on the left-hand side.
Right.
So that's just showing in scope. In the free mode, you can see and start to understand how this module will apply and how you can define your scope packages. But there is a limit of 3 scope packages with 3 systems in each of those. So you can get an idea of it, and if you would like to upgrade, then simply clicking on the blue bar at the top, you can upgrade and start to use the scope module as well. We have teams that just use the plan module. We have some teams that just use the scope module. Most are using across both of those, and also some into the flow module that you'll show later. But essentially being able to use the parts of the application, parts of the platform that you need, that's all you need to pay for.
So one more thing I'd wanted to bring up is here you have some set of toolbars to add teams, add assignments.
So that's like doing it really quickly,
right.
Yeah, by click, click, click.
Add information requirements, those can also be specified to these systems and elements, and then some view preferences that you can select. Here I want to show you that we can open up these systems to view the elements. So here we can be more flexible, more specific, more clear. So we mentioned clear scopes is something that is not always defined correctly.
So I'm just going to have a look here. So if we look at the 400 being fabrication level, we can really start to see where we would be able to turn these on and off. You can see this updating in the grid above when I turn these on and off. And that's just being able to take the power of visual scoping and building exactly what you need for that BIM use. So each one of those columns is a BIM use. Depending on what you're building the model for, you might or might not need certain elements, certain amount of detail in those elements, and certain amount of development of the overall set of elements, and who is responsible, and then also information. So we don't really have time because we are running out of time, but adding information requirements is also something that maybe just quickly showing that. So in the tools as well, this is a big driver for owners nowadays. You could search, find something along the lines of what you're needing.
So here we are searching for warranty. We want to add the warranty end and start date to these. And now we can select what elements we want to define those in.
It might be more applicable for a boiler or a tank or an air conditioning unit or something like that. But being able to assign these en masse, and that will then form part of the report.
Right. And finally, obviously, we still need the traditional PDF format. So let's see what that would look like.
Yeah, so this is where you get the best of both worlds. At the moment, there's no documents in that list, but you can create documents in here.
Right, so let's print out the plan first.
Just print one document, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So let's print out our first
contract.
And here we're going to select what we'd like to add. Let's select the plan contents, the scope summary, and the scope details, so we can see what that looks like.
Cool.
We can also define what milestones we want to print with those scope details. Let's
either leave it or do it.
Yep.
And then you can also see some locks in there. So this is in the free mode again, being able to unlock the cover page and the headers and being able to change certain things and look and feel. They're all settings in the paid mode.
So what we're doing now is basically doing a condensed version of what we have in the app.
Yeah, there we go. So we have a cover page to it, which is completely customizable when you are in the paid versions.
Mm-hmm. Here's our contents that we've defined in our plan module. And there is all of the contents. And we'll scroll all the way down to our scope summary. So here is that condensed scope summary that we've defined, seeing the responsibilities, the LODs, and then a breakdown of that. Here we can see who's responsible for those elements, at what package they were created, and at what milestone they were required, including those information requirements such as the warranty details that we've added. And some of these details were already predefined because we brought those in from our template.
Right. Yeah, so it was as quick as that to create a document that can be shared to the project team. and that can either be sent to them or they can have access. And now when they go into the PDFs, they can see here that Louis just created this document and it's available when it was timestamped.
So whether you are on the free version or on a paid version, you do get unlimited viewers. So unlimited viewers can be invited to access this information. They can have access to the archived documents that have already been printed by other editors and managers. Right. So what's the flow module, you ask?
I was just going to say, what's the flow module, Louis?
So we've already defined our plan and our scope. So what's a way to keep this live? What's a way to keep this going?
How do you make sure that those tasks get done?
So all of those items we've defined in the scope have automatically been created as scope tasks.
And then I just picked the handover on the right-hand side as the milestone that we want to look at.
Right.
And we could start to see here some of those tasks. So you've got all of the checklist items. If we open it up, we can assign it to a specific person. Unfortunately, maybe I'll get that assignment. And then
told you I was going to give
due
you
dates. And then you can start defining this and adding attachments, and whether they're the handover documents or whatever you would like on these cards. And then start to drag and drop them. Really gives you a way of managing those tasks to completion rather than just not being able to see what the status is and being able to understand who is responsible and when they're supposed to carry it out.
It's been really helpful for some weekly or bi-weekly coordination meetings I've seen from some of our customers.
And then on the coordination side, so some of the design teams that are using this, they're actually using, so let's look at the coordination milestone and just print those as filtered cards. So here you can see those cards that can be used in a pull planning workflow, a pull planning session. You can see the responsibility, you can see who's actually supposed to be carrying this out, what it is, and an image, and then a box for them to write in. And so you can use those in the pull planning.
We've already defined the scope for this project, so why are we handing out blank sticky notes to our plumbing subcontractor?
Right.
Let's give them these.
They're already assigned, they're already agreed.
Give them,
It's part of the contract.
Exactly. And let's not forget that this column is very customizable. So in progress, completed, and approved are just some defined default columns.
We can add as many columns or manage this workflow.
Yeah.
Some people like to, instead of just saying in progress, make it week 1, week 2, week 3, etc. And then you can manage these cards as you would like. So each one of these, all of this is very customizable. Yep. Just quickly recap. We built a plan so we can see all of the information about the project and the teams. We actually see the teams that were brought in from that scope package that we brought in. We can see all the way through everything from the software versions and the hardware and everything, how we're going to manage coordinates, etc. The scope, we saw how we build out a scope and how we would adjust that scope. And then we looked at printing and being able to have a contract. And then we looked at how we can manage those tasks to completion. Really, really very simple. And there's our first project. Anything else to? No, it's that simple. It's that simple.